Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to COASTER-net Update. We've got some breaking news out of SeaWorld Orlando, where we just received this weekend a brand new teaser video for Danny, something that's coming way out of left field here, but it looks like Orlando's getting a 2020 coaster. Danny, who's not getting a 2020 coaster at this point? That list is a lot. Well, you. Cedar Point, possibly.
Apparently, somehow, if you would have said, let's list all the parks getting a coaster in 2020, we would not have thought that it'd be every park except Cedar Point.
Well, right now, we have SeaWorld Orlando is on the docket. We have Busch Gardens Tampa's on the docket. Mako at San Diego, is that opening 2020 as well?
Yeah, I believe so.
There still might be one at San Antonio. People have been talking about a wood coaster there for a long time.
That's just in this chain.
And then Busch Gardens, Williamsburg, literally, Danny, every single Busch Gardens major park could be getting a brand new coaster in 2020. Like, that's unprecedented.
That membership is going to be a real good deal next year.
Oh, hell. So anyway, they sent us this teaser video here. And, it looks like it's going to be bird themed. And the debate between you and I this evening is it going to be a dive coaster or is it going to be a wing coaster? And we have arguments on both sides of the argument here.
Yes.
To make. So I think my initial impression when I first saw the video, I immediately went to dive coaster. It makes sense
as did I.
Dive coasters are are trendy right now. Canada's Wonderland, Valravn, Mako at San Diego is going to be a dive coaster. The way the video is shot, it looks like it's diving off a cliff straight down into the water. The only clue we get is it says something about predatory heights. It does say something about diving as well. So it seems to me like a dive coaster, although, you brought this up. Our good friend Dason brought this up as well this weekend at Hollywood Nights. Does it diminish SheiKra an hour away? That Busch Gardens, one of their major attractions, is a dive coaster. Is SheiKra the first one in America, at least? It might be the first one overall. I'm not really sure. I don't know. I don't keep track of
first
Europe.
One in North America.
Yeah, I don't keep track of Europe. No one does. So it is the first one in North America. Does it diminish SheiKra's impact at Busch Gardens?
I think there's an argument to be made there, for sure. Here's my thoughts. If it's a dive coaster, it would seem silly to make it, number one, shorter than the Mako that's already at SeaWorld Orlando, because you're talking about the predatory heights, right? So that implies that it's going to be very, very tall. It would seem silly to build a dive coaster that does this dive thing and not have it be taller than Mako. It would also seem silly to build a dive coaster at SeaWorld Orlando and have it not be taller, faster, bigger, more extravagant than the one an hour down the road, because SheiKra has been around for almost 15 years. And you can bet your bundle that people who are going to SeaWorld Orlando are probably going to Busch Gardens Tampa too at some point. They offer a lot of those combo tickets, especially a lot of the locals who might go to both. It would seem silly to build something less than SheiKra if it's going to be a dive coaster. So in my mind, if you're building a dive coaster at SeaWorld Orlando, you need to go closer to that 250-foot mark or so if you're able to. Maybe you don't have to go quite that high, but it needs to be taller, needs to be faster, needs to eclipse, I think, the Mako already there and SheiKra at Busch Gardens Tampa. You've got to do more than SheiKra for sure in terms of content, and you've got to do more in terms of height and speed than the Mako that you have there at the B&M Hypercoaster.
I don't think doing more than SheiKra content-wise is going to be difficult. There's not a whole lot to SheiKra.
Right, and I'm not saying that is the difference.
Concern, though. And I think we both have talked about this before with the dive coasters especially. It seems the taller you go, the less you do. It seems like the smaller ones do a little bit more than the taller ones do, because they sometimes don't have that second drop in them. This Mako out at San Diego is only 153 foot tall. The drop's going to be 143. It doesn't Immelman, it does a barrel roll, it does a corkscrew, but to me that already feels like it does more than SheiKra does.
No, and I don't think you're wrong there.
Like when I look at like Valkyria, I look at like some of these new ones, like maybe Baron 1898 to some extent. When I look at these new dive coasters, I feel like the smaller ones sometimes feel like they have more. Sometimes less is more. I don't necessarily agree with the assessment that this has to be taller than Mako at Orlando, that it has to be more than 200 feet tall. I do feel like it needs to do more than SheiKra. And I think they need to be two different feeling rides. Like if you're just gonna make another 200 foot tall dive coaster and it's just gonna be a clone of SheiKra, I feel like then you fall into the trap of this feeling too much like SheiKra, and people are like, well, why did you build it?
Well, and that kind of brings us to the next argument of, could it be a wing coaster and it's a tall wing coaster? Maybe you set some sort of wing coaster record. I don't know. That's, at that point you're pushing 200 feet anyway to beat out Gatekeeper. But the wing over drop could do something.
But see, once again, you're assuming that you have to set records with this, and
which you don't have to do necessarily. It just
Orlando, I don't think you have to do it at all.
But it seems silly to talk about height in the teaser video if you're not going to do something taller than what you already have. That seems silly to me.
I don't. They say predatory height though, which to me means almost nothing. Like that term, like you talk about height, but every coaster is going to have height to it. I don't think you need to be taller than Mako. Like I think Mako is your headliner. I almost want to say you don't want to be taller than Mako. That Mako, I think Mako loses something maybe if you make something taller. If you make a 250 foot dive coaster, I do think you need a wing coaster. Now I will say this,
is Behemoth losing something in Canada's Wonderland because they built Yukon Striker?
No, they lost something because they built Leviathan.
Okay, well that's fair.
Well, even though some people still like Behemoth better, like I think you already set that stage with Leviathan there.
Good point. Well, okay, so then let's go back into the Busch Gardens family here. Did Apollo lose something when you built Griffin?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it did. I don't think Apollo has that same feel to it because you got some.
No, granted, those rides were 7-8 years apart. Yeah. Here we're looking at 4 years apart. So
yeah. But see, the problem with the wing coaster, well, one, I know from rumblings that wing coasters have always been discussed at Busch Gardens Tampa. So they were always high on the wing coaster concept. So maybe they're moving that to Orlando and doing it there. But like you said earlier, you already have a flying coaster. Yes, it's a flying fish, but here you have a bird that would have been made a better fly. I don't know.
I mean, and that's where I'm struggling here. And I think, as a wise man once said, I think we're pontificating way too much here. I mean, it's obvious. It seems obvious by the teaser that this is going to be a dive coaster.
Plus, a dive coaster, I think, gives you the visuals that you want on this ride.
Yes.
I think the dive coaster is going to be striking. I'm assuming that they're going to put it over by the Wild Arctic. Maybe they will take out Wild Arctic. Maybe they'll leave it there. Maybe they'll update that ride. Maybe they'll put this right next to it. I don't know, but I'm assuming that's where this is going to go because that side of the park is pretty much empty and has almost no reason to walk over there currently. Besides Wild Arctic.
Well, and that's the next discussion here. So it seems like the most obvious place to put this is over in that area. That area has not seen attention in a long time. I mean, they did the Sesame Street rehab of the Shamu's Happy Harbor just recently here, but we have not seen a big major attraction in terms of a big ride or something in quite some time. We saw Antarctica back by Kraken and Journey to Atlantis. Then we saw Mako in the very back of the park. Infinity Falls is kind of as you go around the loop. It seems like they're kind of going around the loop here, right? Because, you know, they did Manta in 2009, then they worked their way around and did Antarctica. Then they and Turtle Trek was in there, which was on the left side of the park. Then they sort of worked their way back to Mako, and now they keep going around the horn with Infinity Falls and Sesame Street. It would make sense that area is next because they're kind of going around the loop here. So if that's the case, then that Wild Arctic area seems to make the most sense. I know you have the season pass holder, the beer garden or whatever it is back that way as well. When you walk in, it's when you go off to the right. Nobody goes off to the right when they walk into the park. Everyone goes to the left towards Manta, Kraken, Journey to Atlantis. So this might actually change that for the first time in a while if you have a big ride off to the right, because you don't have any real rides off to the right side of the park there. So that kind of leads us into the discussion of a name and a theme here, right?
Well, and I think it's bird that seems to be the if I was to say there's one certainty coming out of this video, it's that it's bird themed. Right. I also feel like it needs a splashdown, and because all the other Busch ones have a nice splashdown. You know, SheiKra Griffin. I think that's one thing that's missing from Valraven. I think it might also be missing from Yukon Striker. I think the tunnel maybe makes up for that a little bit, but I think a big splash pad would be cool, and especially if you're capitalizing on the Arctic theme, which it seems like we are here based on this video. It'd be cool if you even had like little ice pads floating in the water, you know, something like that to theme it out a little bit. Maybe instead of the bright blue that hits you, maybe you do like a darker blue pool to make the water look a little murkier, not murky, but deeper blue like you would see in like the Arctic or something. So we were actually talking about a lot of different bird names,
and we each sort of have a pick here.
Yeah, I
just sort of a prediction to be fun here.
And I lost mine now, so you're gonna have to give me a second. So why don't you go first? Yeah.
All right. Well, I immediately went to, the first thing we did was search Arctic birds and Arctic birds of prey. To just kind of get some lists.
We also looked at Antarctic birds, and we couldn't find any we liked.
We did. So I know yours was the Kittiwaki.
The Kittiwaki is it? And
is that how it's pronounced? Like, actually,
I have no idea. I'm no bird person. I don't even know what the word for a bird person is. It says that Kittiwakis are the planet's only goat-like birds to nest on the side of cliffs. And sometimes not to be scared of heights, so that works. I like the name Kittiwaki. I think it's cool. I think it's kitschy. I think you can market that, and it's a nice white bird with some black. If you live it, I think that's the bird. I don't even know what it is. That's the white-tailed eagle, so it's got to be this one. It's a nice white bird with black wingtips on it. Yep. I would love to see a train like that, an all-white train with black wingtips, like how they have the wingtips on like the dive coasters. I think it looked real sharp.
Yeah, that would look really cool. I think the one that I immediately went to because this is a name that I've actually used in Roller Coaster Tycoon at times when I'm doing inverted coasters. I've actually named an inverted coaster this in one of my games on my Roller Coaster Tycoon Classic on my iPhone, and that is theming a ride to the Peregrine Falcon. So you could call it Peregrine. I think would be the more likely choice there to be more unique. I don't know of a ride with that name. We know that they've kind of dipped into the Falcon theme before with Falcon's Fury. They might even go generic with something like Falcon's Flight. That seems a bit too generic for my liking. I think Peregrine would be kind of cool. The list that I found here is from the mysteriousworld.com, which is it's a top 10 Arctic birds list, and the peregrine falcon is listed here, and I'll read you the snippet here. It says the peregrine falcon is the fastest bird in the world with a top speed between 200 and 240 miles per hour. That's impressive in itself.
That's
right
really
there.
fast.
They live all around the world except Antarctica, which is why this would go in the Arctic area. Leading to this says the name of the bird, which means wandering. It reflects the high migratory behavior of the peregrine falcon. They breed in Arctic tundras, and in the next winter, they migrate to South America by covering more than 15,000 miles. Not all birds of the peregrine falcon family are migratory. Some of them choose a permanent breeding place. Peregrine falcons are an exceptional raptor, Andy. They're an exceptional raptor.
It gets my vote then. No.
And listen to this. They prey on songbirds, pigeons, and bats by using high-speed diving techniques.
Well, and like the other thing is SeaWorld Orlando has always kept things pretty simple. Manta, mako, Kraken's the hardest one to pronounce there. And that's not hard to pronounce at all. Like, you might not know what a kraken is. They don't do a really good job of telling you what a kraken is either, which makes it even stranger. You know, Busch Gardens Tampa has a little bit harder names with, like, SheiKra and
Montu, Kumba.
Yeah, like those names are a little more out there. So I don't know. I like Kittiwaki. I like the way the bird looks, but I think Peregrine might be. I don't know. I don't know if I like that name.
Kittiwaki might be one.
How about we just call it Snowbird?
Well, if this ride was going to Busch Gardens Tampa, or we were teasing something, then I might say Kittiwaki would fit in better there because it's a bit more obscure to the mainstream, if you will.
Yeah.
But the Peregrine, or even Falcon, or even like Ice Falcon or Arctic Falcon, I could even see
something maybe generic like that, where you take a standard word and you put some kind of snow theme in front of it.
I could see them naming it Arctic Falcon or something like that. And that's very simplistic, even though it is a 2-word name, which typically they haven't done at the SeaWorld parks.
They did Falcon's Fury.
They did do Falcon's Fury.
And Busch, once again, cheetah hunt, Cobra's Curse. They like that at Busch. All these names would be better at Busch.
Apollo's Chariot, Loch Ness Monster. I mean, the Busch parks have had some of the longer names. Yeah. SeaWorld has kind of been a mixed bag here, because in San Antonio you have Great White, Steel Eel, and Wave Breaker. And then at Orlando you've got Kraken, Manta, Mako, which is super simple. And then over at SeaWorld San Diego, you've got Manta. They're doing a Mako, but then they also have electric eel now. So more recently, they've seemed to do some of the longer.
I'll throw one more up against the wall here for you. Another idea. What if it's like a wave breaker type name, like a sea diver, where it's a bird theme, but it has a completely different name, like sea diver or Arctic diver or something like that, where it's kind of like you come up. These are obviously not good words here. But you could come up with something that describes the action as opposed to the bird itself. Kind of like wave breaker. Like it's not called jet ski. It's called wave breaker.
Like tundra diver or something.
Yeah, something like that.
The word tundra is intimidating. I think.
I'm trying to, like, something where it describes the action versus the actual animal. Even though everything's named after except Journey to Atlantis, but that I don't even count that. So
no, so I think there's a lot of different things to think about here. We've presented a few options that I think are possible based on what we think we might be able to gather from this video. I think both of our suggestions, or both of our picks as of tonight here on June 4th, I think I think we've made some a compelling argument or two for either one. I think we found some connections there. Maybe they'll call it the Arctic Kitty Walkie Falcon. I don't know.
Well, and I think the takeaway here is, regardless of all the
Arctic Raptor,
Orlando Raptor, why
Ice
not?
Ice Raptor.
Yeah, Ice. Oh, that's a winner.
Now that's a name.
Now that's a name. Now that right there.
New number
Ice
one.
Raptor. Oh man, that would be outstanding. You want a new number one coaster? That's it right there.
and then they'll go off the board and surprise everyone and theme it to a dinosaur.
Well, you're not making my life any worse there. So I think the exciting part here is another SeaWorld coaster coming in. Obviously, a whole new forward movement here. Does this have something to do with Busch Gardens having all those problems with zoning? Is this a transfer of money that, hey, we want to build something? I have no idea, but this is actually absolutely shocking to me that SeaWorld is investing this much in roller coasters possibly for 2020, that we have 2 confirmed now, possibly another 2 on top of that. That just blows my mind completely out of the water.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be interesting to see how soon we get the next nugget here. No trademarks yet, but we know we're expecting some for Gwazi at some point, and we're going to be expecting some for this here too. This makes it all the more peculiar that San Diego flat out announced their 2020 roller coaster already, with a name and renderings and everything like that. That makes it all the more peculiar.
It's very strange what's going on in SeaWorld these days, but we will keep you updated. As always, I'm Andy Robarchuk from Chicago, Illinois.
I'm Danny Miller from Binghamton, New York.
Right on, Ride Warriors.
Thanks, guys. See you next time.